And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Rovner's Rant. This is now heading into week 4 of the East End Baseball League. I'm your host, Hal Rovner. This is my show. I can pretty much do whatever I want to do. And today is going to be a day where obviously we're going to update the power rankings. We're going to see who's sliding, who's gliding, who's swishing, who's dishing. I got a little Walt Clyde Frazier in me today because my Knicks are 2-0 in the playoffs. That's right, they're 2-0 after sending Boston back home in an 0-2 hole after Melo and the Knicks just applied some really good, again, second half defense. Okay, this Knicks team, I'm telling you, they're bound and they're destined for a collision with Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. So it should be a lot of fun for you Knicks fans out there as well as East End Baseball League fans. Knicks are rolling right now. They're gelling like Magellan. Okay, this is going to be a great run for the Knicks. Hopefully a great run for the city of New York. Okay, I know the other Brooklyn team, the other team that plays somewhere close to the Garden, the Brooklyn Nets are in a dogfight. That'll probably go 7 games with the Chicago Bulls as they head back to Chicago after relinquishing home court advantage. All right, but it's been a very big day as far as getting things situated for the rankings. The new rankings are up. There really wasn't a lot of change from last week, although the gap seems to have been tightened. Okay, we had some injuries this week. We've had some debuts. How did Mr. Tony Cingrani do after following up his first start of 5 innings in his major league debut? 5 innings, 8 strikeouts, a little shaky with some wildness. How would he do his next time out? Well, we take a look at that as well in the rankings, and thankfully enough, I have Mr. Cingrani. So it should be a very, very good, excuse me, I just swallowed a little coffee that I've been drinking a little too early. I'm going to take another sip. Not that I need the coffee, but the coffee is very, very vital to getting Rovner's Rant off and running and to get Hal Rovner off and running. All right, so let's take a little gulp of coffee. Only good from 7-Eleven. That's a plug for you. And now we get started with our show. Okay, last week, okay, we had Gold Tip hanging on at first place, slid from his previous 89 point that he had in week 2. He was at 78 points in week 3, and now he heads back to week 4, starting off as we speak today of this video. It's 79.5 points, still holding the top spot is Gold Tip. And Gold Tip is going to be a team that is going to be around for quite some time. He's going to be a team that's going to be a money team. He's going to be a team that should be able to do some things as we get down the stretch here. All right, we already know about Gold Tip's offense, okay, but his pitching is doing quite well as also, okay. Even with the Reyes injury, he hasn't lost a beat. Justin Upton again yesterday. The Upton brothers, he's got both of them. They both go back-to-back. First time since 1930 that's happened. Good start for the Upton brothers in that ridiculously cold weather. I don't know what they're thinking having these out-of-division games, Major League Baseball is, and having all these teams play each other, that they won't see each other again. So they're forced to get the games. It happened with the Mets last week in Colorado, as well as the Mets in Minnesota. This week with Atlanta and Colorado. So even with all this snow, they've got to be able to get these games in because the team's going to make the trip back. See, that's just ridiculous because with all these bad weather games going on, at least if they schedule division games, okay, in the beginning of the season, division games, you're going to see those teams again. So you can make them up later in the year if you get 7 inches of snow. I mean, there was nobody, literally almost nobody at the games yesterday. Rightfully so, like 20 degrees. I mean, I've never seen baseball players wear hoodies and sweatshirts in a game. Okay, usually these guys, if it's cold out, there may be a long sleeve underneath. But to wear sweatshirts and hoodies, I mean, that's just not baseball. All right, it's been a cold spring all over the country. Waiting for the warm weather to come. Waiting to see if we can get some 70 degrees here soon. Today actually happens to be a nice day on the East Coast, so we get more days like today and less days like what's been going on around the country. Let's play some baseball. Let's get some baseball weather. Anyway, back to Andy's team. The Upton brothers have been carrying him, okay, as well as some other guys getting hot for him right now. Miguel Cabrera obviously tearing the cover off the ball. Prince Fields is starting to heat up. So while some of his guys, and this is the problem with it, with an offense is Andy's so good, even if he starts slowing down with some guys, okay, some guys are picking it up. Guys who were hot last week, not hot this week. Guys who weren't hot last week are hot this week. So that's the problem when you have a stacked offense like Andy does. Okay, excuse me. I'm gonna take another sip of coffee. Now we move on to his pitching. Bumgarner is going to do what he's going to do. Alex Cobb starting to settle back in. Okay, Derek Holland had a rough outing the other day. We don't like Derek Holland. He picked up somebody that I dropped, Justin Masterson, who pitched well for him the other day. I know Andy likes to pick up my leftovers, as he likes to say. Chris Medlin, who's been okay. Samardzija, who's starting to settle back in. And Anibal Sanchez, who we all expect will settle back in. So that pitching is going to come down to earth. We expect there to be, a drop-off at some point. Is it going to be a big drop-off? That time's going to tell. But, Andy, as I told you before and I've told you again, okay, you've got to get some pitching. Take one of those offensive players, okay, not that I need to tell you how to run your team, and go get a pitcher. You just need to go get pitching. Because let me tell you something. You're not first, you're last. Remember that. Ricky Bobby said that. All right, you need to get pitching. Pitching is going to get you to the top. Until you get pitching, you're going to stay right there. Okay, you're probably a third, maybe. I mean, I don't say you could even finish second without the pitching, but you will be a money team. That offense is just way too good. And you get Hanley back soon, even with Reyes going down. So it's just, you know what you need to do. I've tried calling you a couple times to make some moves. You got to pull the plug, and you got to do it. Okay, let's move on to the second team. Surprisingly enough, and Hakus, I gotta believe. I gotta let you know I'm a believer right now. Okay, I said it pre-season with the preseason rankings. Okay, yes, I predicted you as a seventh place finisher, which is an upgrade from where you were the last couple of years. Okay, but your pitching's just been phenomenal, which I told you before the season, and I said on this show that pitching was going to be the strength of Hakus. And that hasn't disappointed. If we go to the standings, okay, which I'm going to go to right now, okay, if you go to the standings, Hakus is sitting with 69.5 points, up a point and a half from last week, and he's got 43 points in pitching. Maybe you and Andy are a match. You got a ton of pitching, you need a bat. Andy's got a ton of bats, you need some pitching. So maybe that's how it works. Usually you would think that's how it works. Who knows? Andy's a little tough to deal with. We know that. Hakus, I tried to get you on the phone today. I left you a message. I want to get you on the show. I want to interview you. I want to commend you on such a good job. If I don't get you on this show, maybe I get you on next week's show. You done a really good job of just building your team. I want to get your advice on how to take the team from where it was to where it is and to sharing the successes. Do you have staying power? I guess it's going to ride on your pitching, but more importantly, it's going to ride on, do you trade some of your pitching to get the bat that you desperately crave? And you need a bat. Let's just make no mistake about it. You need a bat, okay? Offensively, team's hitting well, okay, as far as batting average goes. Power-wise, down towards the bottom half. Runs-wise, down towards the bottom half with me, okay? And as far as RBIs, this is a little weird. The power is down, but the RBIs are up. So you're sitting in a good spot over there, and you're right in the middle of a pack of bags. So you're doing something right there, okay? And your pitching has been absolutely lights out. Okay, Lester, very good. I think Lester can continue to throw as well as he's thrown. You can't underestimate John Farrell. I've mentioned that a few times. Okay, Clay Buchholz, I don't think he's going to pitch to a .9 ERA all year, but I do think he's going to have a good year. Felix Hernandez, very good, we know. Okay, Alexia Gondo is going to settle back in. Sabathia, it's pretty, outside of Oglesson, when you could say Sabathia is one of your worst pitchers on your staff, you got a good staff. All right, so whatever you're doing there, you're doing it fine. Okay, but you definitely need to go get a bat. Okay, bat is going to make the difference. And listen, I want to, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I was very wrong on Napoli. I made fun of the hip and everything else, and he's making me look like a fool. So kudos to you. When I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll admit it. Mike Napoli leading the league in RBIs, 25 ribbies. Who knew? I didn't. 268, 425, and he sure does look good wearing that Boston jersey. Okay, so you're sitting in at number 2. Number 3, oh, reliable, the Mega Palace. Okay, last week sat at 61.5 points, jumped up 5.5 points to 67 this week, and he's jumped up because his team's just been hitting the snot out of the ball. To Tony's team, looking for some pitching, has the horses to do it. Haven't done it yet, so you can just know he's going to. But the hitting's done very well. Trades away Weeders to get Harvey and picks up John Buck. And, it almost looks like Buck for Weeders is a pretty fair trade-off. And this kid Harvey is just ridiculous. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. And he goes tonight trying to bounce the Mets back. Got a little itch there. Bounce the Mets back after their loss to the Dodgers last night. Willen Rosario getting the job done, almost hitting 300 with four dingers and 14 ribbies and also a few bags in there. Robinson Cano just absolutely tearing the cover off the ball right now. He's in a good zone. David Wright getting it done. A little weak in the middle with Alexi Ramirez. Howie Kendrick, big night with a walk-off last night, getting it done. Pedro Alvarez not hitting at all. Josh Hamilton starting to wake up a little bit with a 4-for-4, 5-for-5 night last night, the other week. Bryce Harper, I don't even need to see anything about Bryce Harper. McCutchen hasn't even hit yet, but he's contributing with bags. Ben Revere, I think he's just holding the spot open until Tony makes a deal. Same with Vernon Wells, holding the spot open for Hayward when he comes back. And Manny Machado's starting to get a little bit hot. Okay. On the pitching side of it, got Detweiler, who threw a good game last night. Tough luck loser. Trevor Cahill. Got Matt Harvey, who we've touched on, who I think is going to be the next best young pitcher in the game. Tony arguably has the best 2 young pitchers in the game on the staff at the same time with Harvey and Strasburg. You got Jim Johnson in the bullpen. Already has 8 saves. Clayton Kershaw threw a very good gem against the Mets last night. Papelbon also very solid. Parnell, again, not too bad there. David Price, tough night last night for David Price. And Steven Strasburg still sitting with the ERA under 3, and he hasn't thrown his best yet. So, to me, Tony's right there, and he will be there all the way through. Okay? Coming in the 4th place is JKA, although he dropped a point from last week. Okay? JKA right now, his problems reside within his pitching. All right? Got almost 40 points on offense, 39.5 points, and is sitting in at 19.5 points on the pitching side of it. So if we take a look at his team, which we're going to take a look at right now, JKA is getting it done at the plate with the likes of Buster Posey. Salvador Perez hasn't done anything yet. Edwin Encarnacion really hasn't done anything yet. Ricky Weeks hasn't done anything yet. Todd Frazier, most of his power came early in the season. But a guy like Jed Lowry keeps hitting. He's got Daniel Murphy, who I traded to him, who obviously is hitting very well. Alan Craig, no homers, but 15 ribbies. Nelson Cruz getting it done. Cargo getting it done. Austin Jackson getting it done. Adam Jones has slowed down, but still hitting a respectable 353. Stolen Martes picked it up a little bit on the base pass. He's got a few bags, hitting 320. And he's got Laurie, who's back from the DL. Okay, but here's the thing, pitching-wise. Kane got roughed up again last night. Young pitcher Jose Fernandez on that Miami team is going to be limited with innings. What's he going to do? How's it going to work? That team's not going to score a lot of runs. Okay, so even if he does happen to get the job done, okay, is he going to win many games? Probably not. Okay, Gio Gonzalez, who got rocked in that game versus the Mets, you got to just hope that that's an aberration for Gio. He's too good of a pitcher for that to happen. He had 2 outs in the 4th inning, and he was up 3-0. Before you know it, he left the inning down 5-3. They came back and got him off the hook because Adam LaRoche on Jay-Z Day hit a bomb to give him the lead and pulled Gio off the hook. All right, Joe Nathan getting the job done in the bullpen. Rue is settled in, ERA at 4. Don't know how much Rue, there's going to be an adjustment period for Rue. It's a much different game over here in the States. Let's see what Rue can do. He's got to lay off that pork fried rice. Okay. Rafael Soriano, ERA a little high, getting it done in the bullpen. And Teheran, I believe he threw well yesterday. I'm going to have to pull up his game, his outing from last night. Okay, I don't want to be misquoted. And Teheran last night, what did he do? Four star of the season, surrendered a run scoring single to Dyer in the third. Okay, 90 pitches, 74 strikes. Had a good outing last night in very cold Colorado. Struck out 3, didn't issue a walk. So good outing for him. Let's see if that's a trend that can continue as we go through here. Okay, and as far as JKA goes, okay, if we look at his team a little bit further, okay, you got some guys like I said, like Kane, okay, who really aren't performing that well as of yet. But Kane's a proven guy. You got to imagine he will throw well. Okay, we take a little bit of a deeper look at his staff. He's also got Verlander, who's throwing very well. Doesn't have a lot of wins to show for it. He's got an ERA of 2.13. He's got Jordan Zimmerman, ERA 2.66. It's not striking anybody out. Okay, so Zimmerman throwing well, not getting the Ks. All in all, I think Mark's team is another team that's going to be there at the end. He's just waiting for some of his pitching to sell in. He's got, again, just like Tony, he's got the horses to do it. All right. Then we have coming in at the 5-hole, Barry Reef. Okay, last week sat 57 points. This week he dropped a point and a half. Okay, and he dropped a point and a half due to some pitching woes. Sitting at 27 points pitching, 28.5 points on offense. Very balanced. Lost a point and a half from last week. Okay, and if we look at Barry's team, we assess it. His catches not getting the production you'd like to get. Pujols dealing with the plantar fasciitis. I believe I pronounced that right. Okay, but he's in a lot of pain. Pujols trying to avoid the DL, and we'll see what happens there. Dan Uggla, the guy just can't hit for average. He's got 4 homers, and he's batting 166. Need I say more? Will Middlebrooks hopefully get the home run he hit the other day, gets him out of the slump he was in ever since that 3-home a day. Okay, sitting at 173. Got Ben Zobrist, who I still like, even though he's in 253. He's got Gene Segura, who's really tearing the cover off the ball. Segura's had a very good season, proving he is the real deal, coming over in that trade. Now he's got Anthony Rizzo, hitting 178 with 6 dingers. He's got Lorenzo Cain, who, if that guy stays healthy, that guy can have a very, very good year. He's got Ellsbury, who's leading the way with 9 bags, and is having a very fine season for Boston. Brett Gardner, who hasn't done much. Michael Morse, who is he's got 6 homers for 229, and Mark Trumbo, 2 homers in 316. Okay, and Billy Butler hitting 215. So without even looking at, you heard all the batting averages. Barry's going to need some batting average guys. All right, that's what he's going to need on the offensive side. He's got some guys who are hitting the long ball. He's got some guys who are stealing some bags, but he's going to need some batting average. Okay, on the pitching side of it, he's got Brett Anderson, okay, who I believe was hurt in his game the other day. Okay, and if I'm correct, I think Brett Anderson is pitching today. Okay, yes, he is pitching today, and he's just had a problem with his ankle. So we'll see what Brett Anderson does. Dan Straley waits on the sidelines and is looking for a spot and to get a chance to come up and make an impression. Okay, so he's got issues there with him. Got Bailey getting the job done as closer. Wade Davis getting the job pitching in Kansas City. Matt Latos, who we like, getting the job done. Cliff Lee getting the job done. Mike Minor getting the job done. Fernando Rodney, he's just blowing saves. Looks like he's back in Detroit, blowing saves left and right. Williamson getting the job done. C.J. Wilson, who I still think C.J. Wilson's a little bit banged up. Okay, so good team, right in the thick of things, right in the middle. I mean, if you look at it, as you see, I'm going to go through these rankings. Between 4th place and 8th place, 9 points separates it. And with some of these categories, that's not much. These categories are pretty tight. Coming in at 6th, 54.5 points last week, 54.5 points this week. Time to make the babies. Now, Time to Make the Babies has 40 points in pitching. Another guy who matches up with Andy. 40 points in pitching, 14 points in hitting. Okay, 14.5 points in hitting. And he's got better hitters than that. He's got Montero, just not hitting yet. Weeders, just not hitting yet. Freeman, who just came back off the DL. But then here's where it all begins. You got Neil Walker, Moustakas, Hardy, Ackley, Reynolds. Not doing much with that. Okay. Outfield of Norichika Aoki, Jay Bruce, Chu, Davis, who's obviously cooled down, if you could say that, and he's still hitting 382 with 7 homers and 22 ribbies. Desmond Jennings, who I told you I liked in the early seasons, just turned out to be a bit of a disappointment. He just doesn't seem to be able to find his way out of it. hitting 233, 2 homers, 4 ribbies, 5 bags. So he really has not done much, and he hasn't lived up to what I thought he was going to do. Thought this was going to be a year for him. And he's got Adam Dunn, who's in a $101. All right, but his pitching's been lights out with the likes of Yu Darvish, Ryan Dempster, Hisashi Iwakuma. Okay, had another good outing last night. He's got Hiroki Kuroda. All right, he's got Chris Perez, got Addison Reed, Max Scherzer, Wainwright, who threw a gem last night, and Travis Wood. So your pitching's lights out. You have no hitting. So, again, another guy who matches up very favorably with Andy. Give Andy a call. Okay, although he probably won't make a deal with you because the simple fact is Andy doesn't want to make any big trades. He wants to, like some of the owners in this league, dish off their pieces. And you're not the only one, Andy. There's a bunch of you out there. You like to just throw pieces out there and hope you can get somebody's better player. You can't do that. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And if you do that, you're going to be exposed on Rovna's Rant. Okay? So if you're going to make an offer, make it a good offer. All right? You don't want to be brought out in public on this show. And you will be addressed. That's a promise. All right, let's move on to the Stunners. Stunners last week, 54 points, dropped to 50 points. Okay, if we take a deep look at Stunners' team, he's got a lot of hitting, doesn't have the pitching. All right, 31 points in batting, 19 points in pitching, 4-point drop-off from last week. Okay, and he's getting it done with the likes of Victor Martinez and Yadier Molina. Molina's showing that last year was no fluke. Ike Davis, who outside of a big day against Strasburg last week's done nothing. Brandon Phillips, who's cooled down. Matt Carpenter, who's cooled down. Josh Rutledge, who, does a little bit of everything, is trying to figure out, and I like Josh Rutledge. Chase Utley, who's still doing it. Kendrys Morales, been doing okay. Beltran, who's been starting to heat up a little bit. Melky Cabrera's done nothing. Alex Gordon, off to a fine start for the season. Markakis, who's really been streaking for the Orioles, and he had himself a very good week last week. He had Alex Rios showing last year was no fluke, and that's what he's able to do. And he's got Chase Headley, who just came back off the DL. Okay, so that should hopefully help him pick up the things there. But the problem is pitching-wise. R.A. Dickey going out on the mound last night, okay, after playing chest tightness and lower back tightness. Should he have been on the mound last night? Probably not. Went and took his spot anyway. Got shelled. I don't want to say shelled, but it wasn't good. Okay. Not pitching well, not making the adjustment well. R.A. Dickey, I think, might be bound for a DL trip. Could be wrong, but I think that's where it's heading. Marco Estrada, okay, Roy Halladay, looking for the doc to get things back in order. Jim Henderson, who took over the role from Axford, and his mustache. I mean, Axford just was horrible. Henderson has seemed to get the job done since he's taken over the role. And don't see him relinquishing. Tim Hudson, Brandon Lee, Lance Lynn, Paul Maholm, who finally gave up some runs, and Jake Peavy. So he's going to need some pitching, has plenty of hitting, or I should say plenty, has some bats. Seth, you're right where I thought you'd be. Big surprise, and I'm back again. I was tied with you at 54 points last week. I'm tied with you again this week at 50. Now, to address the state of the events on my team, okay, 18.5 points in batting, which is a little bit misleading. 31.5 points in pitching, which is kind of where I expect it to be. And I expect that to continue to creep up for 50 points. Is there anything more frustrating than looking at your team and saying, man, what the hell is going on? Because that's where I'm at with my team. Okay? Got the horses, got the bats, got guys like Mauer and Brzezinski. I'm getting great production on my catchers. Couldn't be happier with the production I'm getting on my catchers. Adam LaRoche, a little bit of a head scratch. He's not getting 172 all year, but he's got to get it going. Danny Espinosa, not going to hit 166 all year, but he's got to get it going. Okay? Pick up Kyle Sager at third base because Zimmerman hits the DL with a hamstring injury. So we'll see if Kyle Sager, a day later, dollar short, I was going to pick him up the night before, which I didn't do. Of course, he had a homer that night. So now I pick him up. Let's see what he can continue to do for Jay-Z Bank. Starlin Castro, who has been serviceable. He's been good, and I expect him. He's a bright spot, will continue to be. Now, Asdrubal Cabrera has been, so far early in the season, a big disappointment. Okay, same thing with Justin Morneau. It really hasn't gotten out of it. But I do think with some of those cities like Cleveland and Minnesota, okay, when the weather starts to warm up and they're not playing in snow or that miserable cold weather, I do see the bats heating up. I think that's why, some of these bats that normally go haven't heated up yet. because the weather's just miserable all in these cold weather cities. Okay, Cleveland, Chicago, Minnesota, Colorado. Although it's Colorado, it doesn't seem to affect Tulowitzki and Cargo. Those cold weather cities, all those East Coast cities, just been miserable. All right, once the weather warms up here soon, I expect the bats to warm up, and that goes for everybody, not just my bats. Okay, Ryan Braun's starting to heat up, carrying Jay-Z Bang. Now sits at 6 homers, 20 ribbies, and has been tearing it up. Matt Holliday quietly putting things together. Torrey Hunter still hitting the shade under 400, getting the job done. Pagan doing well and serviceable in place of Michael Bourne until he comes back. Nick Swisher, his bat started to heat up a little bit last week with some big hits. And Alcides Escobar, who I picked up and I like a lot, got him in trade for Daniel Murphy. Okay, got Zimmerman on the DL, hopefully back in a couple of weeks. Bourne, hopefully back in a week. All right, on the pitching side of it, pretty happy. Happy with the production of Homer Bailey. Happy at the production, really happy at the production of A.J. Burnett. Last year, I thought he turned the corner, getting out of the Yankee Stadium, getting to the National League. It's on pace to strike out 405 guys. Is that going to happen? Probably not. In fact, I'll probably say it won't. But he's got a good year. Could strike out 200 plus easily. Okay. Tony Cingrani, we're going to address him at the end of my team. Ernesto Frieri, who blew a save early this week. He held the game in check last night. Okay, Cole Hamels, who pitched well. He was a tough luck loser last night, but he settled in, threw really well, and that's 3 straight outings that Hamels has gotten back to looking like Cole Hamels. Craig Kimbrell has just been a beast. There might not be a guy more solid out of the bullpen than Craig Kimbrell in all of Major League Baseball. Wade Miley, who I had him on my team, cut him when we did the cutdowns, picked him back up when I had the injury. And Wade Miley, very good. Pitched well again the other night. Bullpen blew the game for him. And when I say bullpen, my boy, J.J. Putz, who's on my team, okay, not only did he blow it the other night, he blew another one last night. So, to me, J.J. Putz, this guy get his shot together, okay? Matt Moore, throwing a gem, taking that next step, climbing Matt Moore is, okay? Making the step, doing what he needs to do to become an elite pitcher. And he is becoming an elite pitcher, making that next step. The comparisons to Clayton Kershaw, it's just unbelievable what this kid's done. Through a great game, deep game. The only guy, if it wasn't for Robinson Cano, it's a perfect game or a no-hitter. Okay? But Matt Moore taking that next step, outdueling CC Sabathia, 9 strikeouts, sitting with a sparkling 1.03 ERA, 29 strikeouts, 4-0. Him and Harvey, I believe, are the only 4-0 guys. If I'm wrong, send me an email to the show and let me know. But last but not least, let's talk about Tony Cingrani. Little shakiness in his first start, a few walks, got behind guys, threw 100 pitches in 5 innings. Okay? 8 strikeouts. Got the win. Gutted out the win. A lot of pitches up. Threw very, very well. Well, last night, Mr. Cingrani, okay, sharp last night. Very sharp. And this time it wasn't against the Marlins. It was against the Cubs. Okay? 2 runs, 9 hits, 7 innings of work, 9 strikeouts. Here's the magic number, though. 0 walks. Tony Cingrani looking to find a way to stay up when Johnny Cueto comes back. This kid is going to be one of the next best young pitching prospects in baseball. Next best. He's that good. Everybody's raving about him, as well as Rovna's ranked. So Tony Cingrani, everybody's got their eye on you. You keep it up. Keep it up. Like what we see there. Let's move on. We got GCB last week, 42 points. And this week he makes the climb, still sitting at 9th place, but he makes the climb from 42 points to 45.5 points. 20.5 points on the pitching side, on the batting side, 25 points on the pitching side. Okay? So let's take a closer look at his team. Sitting with Dumit and Lucroy, catcher. Okay. Not great. Okay. Konerko has not hit yet. Ian Kinsel, who's been carrying GCB. Lonnie Chisnell, 3rd. Not good. I'll tell you this, there's not much out there. when I was looking and scouring to pick up somebody for Zimmerman, that third base area was extremely, extremely weak. Chisenhol's probably better than what's out there, and that's sad to say. Zach Cozart at short, Everest Cabrera in the middle. Adrian Beltre at the corner, doing well. Fowler off to a great start, 275, 7 homers, 10 ribbies, 3 bags, 15 runs. Dexter Fowler might be arguably your best player, and that's a lot. That's saying a lot when you have Kemp and Trout on your roster. Kemp's still trying to find his way out of it. Trout looks like he's finding his way out of it. Okay, had a great week this past week, hitting 280 on the season, 13 runs, 2 homers, 11 ribbies, 3 bags, just a stat filler. Since April 13th, Trout's batting .371 with 10 ribbies, 9 runs scored in 9 games. He's walked 4 times and only struck out 5 times, has 6 extra base hits and 2 stolen bases. So he's been, since April 13th, he's been everything that he was last year. And that's going to continue. He's just that good of a player. So you're in good shape there. Trout's coming alive. And when he does what he does, he can carry your team. David Free, you got Victorino, you got Willingham, okay, and you got David Freese, who just came back off the DL. You had Aaron Hill go to DL since the last night. Now here we go, pitching-wise. Cishek in the bullpen. Gallardo threw a good gem the other day. It's amazing what this guy does when he doesn't drink. Josh Johnson still trying to find his way out of it. Ian Kennedy, the same thing. Lincecum with a great start, his last one out, which is probably his best start in over a year, so hopefully that's something that can continue. I believe Lincecum is going to have, he doesn't throw again until the weekend, okay, or later in the week. Shelby Miller, who's been a great, great move for you. You got him in a trade with Arbiter. Shelby Miller has been one of the bright spots as far as young pitchers go. We don't want to discount him when I talk about the likes of Singrani and the likes of Harvey, okay? You can't not talk about Shelby Miller. I mean, Shelby Miller's just been absolutely lights out, okay? Shelby Miller's sporting an ERA, okay, of, let's get into this here, sporting an ERA of 2.16, 26 strikeouts against 7 walks, a whip of .88, and he's 3-1. So he's a little bit over a strikeout an inning. Okay, Shelby Miller is the real deal. Make no mistake about it. When Michael Wacha gets up, well, Jay-Z Bang has, they got 2 of the best young pitchers in baseball, because that kid Wacha is no joke. All right? Glenn Perkins in the bullpen, Rivera, and then James Shields, who just keeps getting it done. Okay? But let's address something that needs to be addressed. Okay? Mullins coming in last in the standings, and I don't expect that to last long either. Okay? But really, Brett? Really? Really? And I say really because I believe it was Seth, not myself, you called down the site with regards to reading an article and then going and picking the guy up. Don't fault the guy for being able to grab him. Okay? I thought at first it was you talking to me about Singrani, who I drafted. It turns out, I guess it was against Seth picking up Jonathan Gray. So, early bird catches the worm. We got some issues that we got to get to with your team. I'm usually expecting to get phone calls from you because you like to make trades. You like to be active. Well, if there's ever a time you need to be active, and you don't need to go into panic mode, but if there's ever a time you need to be active, that time is now. Okay? And the time is now because you're sitting with 8.5 points in batting, and 11 points in pitching. Let's examine your team, and this is why I say it's not going to last. You got a Vila catcher and J. Saw catcher. Okay? We got Goldschmidt, who's very good, okay, who you have at first. And if it wasn't for Goldschmidt, you might have like 3 points in batting. You have Kipnis, who has just carried over that horrible second half from last year. You got Prado, Prado's Prado. You have Rollins at short, okay, he'll be at the end of the year, he'll be exactly what he is. You got Desmond at short, who's done very well. You got Euclid at third, and your corner, who's banged up. Okay, and in the outfield, you got Bautista, who's yet to do anything, but that'll change. You got Bonifacio, who's done nothing. You got Shearholtz, who's done very well in Chicago. Don't know how long that's going to last. You got Denard Span in Washington, who, he's good if he's your 5th outfielder. Okay, and you got Stanton, and here's the big problem with Stanton. Okay, whether he's hurt, whether he's not hurt, something's not right. Okay, for him to be batting 200 with 4 runs and no homers and 3 ribbies this year, first of all, I don't think the guy wants to be there. Okay, they traded all his buddies, all his friends. He knows that that team's not going to compete. Okay, but just because the team's not going to compete, does that mean Giancarlo Stanton has a right to not compete? This guy is way too good to be sitting with these numbers. I know they could pitch around him. Okay, but if that's the case and they could pitch around him, okay, let's take a look here. He's got 10 walks against 21 strikeouts, so he's been up 55 times. He struck out 21 times. Almost half of his at-bats, he struck out. Okay, now this is a guy last year who struck out 143 times in 449 at-bats. So that's a pretty decent ratio. But 21 times in 55? Really? Really? Really, Giancarlo? I know the team blows. You might be the biggest disappointment in fantasy baseball right now. You're that bad, Stan. So, Michael Kadaria's been a bright spot for you. Been very good. He's always been good, going back to his days with the Twins. Okay. I know you got a lot of guys on the DL. Okay. You got Ruiz, who's suspended. You got Aramis Ramirez on DL. Grant's on DL. Kubel on DL. Corey Hart on the DL. I realize that. Okay. So, these are all things that we have to understand. You're pitching, you got Pfister, you got Herron, you got Kenley Jansen, you got Morrow, you got Nice, who took a shot off the leg yesterday. X-rays came back negative. You got Romo, you got Sale, you got Street, and you got Zito. And on DL, you got Quayle, and you got Beach. There you have it. That's how you get 19.5 points. A lot of injuries, and guys just not producing. Brett, you need to make some trades, my man, and you need to make them soon. Guys, before I leave us here, okay, I want to go over a couple of things real quick. Okay, if I look at the league transaction sheet, okay, there really hasn't been any activity. Hasn't been any deals. Again, I know we're only 4 weeks into the season. I know the owners in this league are pretty sharp. I know you guys know your stuff. But at least initiate some calls. Let's get some moves made. This is a league where, you know what, there's a lot of money at stake. So why not bet your team? Why not put yourself in a position to shake things up? Andy, you know what you need? Go get it. Call Hakus. Call Time to Make the Babies. Call Rooney. Rooney! Call them. Make a deal. If not with me, with somebody. These are all things that we need to do. Okay, this for me, this is Rovna's rant. Okay, and let me tell you something. What I like to see is oh, we got audio coming in from, I switched the page. That was audio coming in from Fantasy Baseball from CBS. They were interrupting Rovna's rant, which I don't like. When we come in on Rovna's rant, there's certain things we look to do. We want to expose the truth. We want to go over what it looks like on paper, and we want to be able to address it. Let's get some deals made, guys. Call me up. You want to be on the show? Call me up, 516-308-7150. Email me, okay? Send it to my email box, hrcs11@verizon.net. Let's get it going. Let's shake things up. I'm Hal Rovna. This is Rovna's rant, and I am out of here. Here you go.